Welcome to part 10 of the Lizardmen campaign. Last time we took out the vampires to our northeast with ease, then we went a bit further northeast to kill some orcs as well, just to completely clear up that corner of the map. So that was all done, then we started moving over to the west. There were more vampires to kill, just a few, and the abominations to fight. So we're getting prepared to make an invasion in that direction, although the arrival of the elves is possibly going to throw a spanner in the works. First of all, we've got an attack at Suddenburg to make, where the abominations have a nice walled settlement that we need to steal. So on this lovely evening, here we go to make our attack against these walls. The beastmen towns or abomination towns are basically human settlements in a state of disrepair, so they're going to have walls and towers. We're going to have to clump up along the edges of the map to avoid that tower fire, using some skinks here as meat shields to absorb attacks. But what we can't do is effectively absorb this Kroq-gar attack. They can throw stones over the wall to just demolish our troops, so we need to get inside fast to try and disable that guy if we can. Now, taking the walls was pretty easy because the abominations have so many units that aren't allowed to go on walls. They didn't have very much actually defending them. That meant we're pretty much guaranteed to capture the walls above both of the gatehouses, and in one case here I've used a stegodon to just open up the gate and get inside anyway. They've got some Chaos Spawn in here and some of that Chaos Infantry unit that I can never remember the name of. The ones with crab hands, basically, they're not especially impressive or important, so we'll just ram through that with everything. We've got so many units there, we're guaranteed to make a breakthrough. On the other side, that Kroq-gar still being really annoying, getting some really accurate shots onto the wall with a perfect angle to just wipe out our troops by the dozen. So we've almost lost a full unit there, and we've also lost control of them because of those attacks. Very annoying. What I'm actually trying to do here is capture the gatehouse. Wrongly so. I thought you could get on top of the gate, capture that area, and then it would let you open it. You actually can't if there's anything standing behind the gate. You have to capture the ground beyond it to open it, which I didn't realise, so that was all just me wasting time there, effectively. On the other side of things, it's going to go okay, since we have so many numbers. As I said, we'll just grind through everything, and the enemy kept sending one unit at a time from the capture point to reinforce this gatehouse, and that was just a nice way for me to kill them all one by one. The Kroq-gar was trying to hit us. That time he somehow lost his stone mid-throw, so that was nice. We do need to get that Kroq-gar into melee so he'll stop killing everything, and it was at around this point that I realised those gates aren't actually going to open, so now I'm just bringing these spear troops up onto the wall and then down the other side so they can go and make this attack. It's still going to be pretty difficult for them, since they do need to take down some pretty hefty beasts here. They're going to get stamped on and they're going to get whipped about by this abomination. And I've only actually got a couple of units of spears here, but we don't necessarily need to defeat these units. I'm just going to fight them because the opportunity has arisen. I want that Kroq-gar to stop throwing things all over the place. So we'll leave that melee going. We've got plenty of stuff to reinforce it. Really, I'm focusing over here, where we're making a pretty decent push towards the enemy's capture point. The one unit at a time thing continued, because every time we would rout one unit it would go back and then come back again for a second round. So it was getting pretty annoying, but eventually we were going to grind through that inevitably. Here we are, pretty close to the capture point, just killing the last couple of things that are trying to stop us, and we did do a pretty decent job against the monsters back over here as well. We just had so much stuff that even though our advantage wasn't particularly strong, we could bring the enemy down and demoralise them. In the case of this Kroq-gar, he's trying to escape. Not really going to work all that well for him. So we just need to finish off these crypt horrors to get our way over to the capture point, and we're probably going to chain route the army at this point anyway. Nice bit of lightning, kills absolutely loads of them, so that was good, and that does indeed end the fight. All of the crypt horrors die, I guess because they're technically a vampire unit. The crumbling thing still affects them, even though they're not actually part of the vampire faction anymore. I don't quite know how that all works. But anyway, we've got our victory and we've got our settlement, and the losses were nothing we can't just replenish straight back again. So ultimately that was free. In we go. So that's the first region in a new province. I think it's called Land of the Dervishes, and we've got a couple more abomination regions to take to complete it. And I was just noting here how we don't get to keep the walls that the beastmen had. It now converts to a Lizardman settlement which doesn't have walls, so that's pretty annoying. Don't know why we tore them down, but I guess we had to for cultural reasons. Now the elves are up to no good here. They've got an agent failing to do something against me, but what are they going to do with their army? First it goes to kill some vampires. That's pretty nice because we would have had to do that otherwise, but then they start coming back at a different angle into our territory. I think they can only be coming for our lands with that particular trajectory, so that means we need to set up a potential defense. there's still the possibility that we don't have to fight the elves at all, because they may go home once they complete their mission to defeat the vampires, but since we are at war with them, we need to be wary. I could have gone after them right now with kroq-gar, but I'm not going to bother. Instead, I'm going to focus on the war locally, the abomination conflict. We need to move up to those pools of despair and capture them as soon as we can. Right now I'm going to just move a tiny bit of the way and then encamp to get our force to full strength. Into the next turn, absolutely nothing happened. The elves didn't even move, so that was nice. We can then continue on to Pools of Despair with our main force. Fortunately, there was no army inside. That means it's nice and easy to attack, although once again it does just get some free walls. That doesn't have a massive effect on the balance bar, but it does mean the auto-resolve is less favourable. Generally, you just get some extra losses added to your side if you auto-resolve against walls to represent the towers, I suppose, even though, as we've seen, you can pretty much minimise the amount of damage that towers actually do when you do it manually. But anyway, no walls for us again, so that's unfortunate, but we'll start setting up defences there, ready to hold it if the abominations counter-attack. I noted that some human pirates are starting to sneak their way over. We will see a tiny bit more of them later, but really we need to worry about this elven army. It's not attacking us, but it didn't leave either, so what is it planning? On the abomination front, I'm going to move Ruwa to encamp near to the border so that next turn he should be able to go on the offensive and attack another settlement, and for now he'll be able to avoid that delicious attrition by sitting in his camp. So with that sorted, it's time to move through the end turn sequence and first of all see what the elves do. They do go right at the top. So their army comes towards us here, looks like it's going to make an attack. Then another army suddenly appears behind it to back them up. There were two elven armies here all along, and I realised that when I thought the elves were doing nothing, what actually happened was the first army moved and hid, and then a second army moved to where the first army had been standing. So between turns it looked like the elves just weren't going to do anything. They were actually setting up for this attack. We do have a choke point, which I thought was great because it may aid in our defense, but we are facing quite a lot of stuff on the enemy side. They've got lots of elite units, lots of flyers, some siege weapons, a phoenix as well, all sorts of variety. So we're just going to have to make a nice deep formation in the choke point and see if that helps, and right off the bat we saw that it wasn't going to. The enemy's siege weapons, these eagle bolt throwers, can attack us from their deployment zone. Their range was extreme and the map was quite small, so where I set up was in the firing line for these bolt throwers right from the beginning. You can see the bolts split up as they travel, so they actually get multiple hits per shot, and they're just wrecking everything. These skinks feeling the pain. I'm actually moving them further forward to try and attract more fire, because I want to keep those shots off of our main bodies of infantry until the fight can get started. I'm willing to sacrifice the skinks, but the damage they're taking is extreme. And also they're going to move up their regular units now. They've got plenty of archers, lots of units that are mixed role, so their melee units can fire arrows for a bit at the start as well. They've got some dedicated melee units here, like these anti-infantry axe troops, who are going to be a bit of a pain. And they've also got even more bolt throwers coming up with their second army. So we started getting bombarded so heavily that I realised we have to charge through the choke point and attack. The problem is, Lizardmen can't really charge. This is how fast they can move. They don't really have a running state. So we just have to walk through this barrage and take it, and we're losing tons and tons of stuff. Plus, as we get closer, all of their archers will open up on us as well. And they haven't even deployed the archers from their second army, who are still getting into position, so there is a lot of stuff coming our way right now. The only hope was to find a way through the front line, and we're actually going to find that the choke point is going to work to the enemy's advantage, because now we can only fight with a couple of their units, meaning there's no way for us to get around and attack those archers or those siege weapons. The upside to all this is the enemy are hitting their own troops pretty badly with those bolt throwers, so that was nice. What we really need here are flying units. The enemy has plenty, like that eagle just disrupting our formation there. He'll have to get out of there. It's a pretty bad place to be. Now, as I move in my second wave of infantry, they're starting to attract fire from the bolt throwers, and they're going to get wrecked as well. Not very nice at all. My one possible way to stop those things from firing at me was to use these garrison pterodactyls, but they got annihilated, even fighting just with the crew, and once the enemy's mage and an eagle got involved, that was over. So we now have literally no choice. We just have to stand here and take it. The only other option, run away, is even worse because of our low speed. As already mentioned, we would take even more damage if we tried to get out of the choke point and bring the battle somewhere else. So we're going to have to just grind and see what happens. Using a vortex there to stop their phoenix from attacking us. Not that it did much good. The phoenix did land and start thrashing about. It had low health at the start of the battle, so I actually killed it pretty quickly, but the thing about phoenixes is they tend to come back to life, and indeed this one does, with almost full health again, so that was very disappointing. A lot of my nearby troops are so outraged they just rout and get out of there, and in fact you can see all along the front line, everything's routing. There's just so much stuff coming down from the enemy's siege attacks and their archer attacks that we just can't take it. They can easily take out all of the stuff we have waiting in reserve to take part in the fight further forwards, and the fight further forwards isn't going to be going all that well. The enemy's infantry is decent. I think we probably did have an edge on them, but with all the casualties we've already taken from the enemy's ranged attacks, it's just not happening, and pretty soon our entire army chain routes and tries to get out of there, taking more and more losses along the way. A devastating defeat, only a close defeat, so we did obviously kill quite a few of them just grinding on the front line there, but certainly not enough. Our forces have been pretty much wiped out, and the settlement is now at their mercy. The other thing to consider is that even though we did have a lot of stuff alive at the end there, which is probably why it gave us the close defeat, it all gets deleted, so relatively we didn't do very much damage to the enemy at all. Got rid of a couple of units, but nothing special, so we lose our Slan Mage Priest, our special commander, and a full stack of troops. We don't lose the settlement, they just sacked it, which is annoying, but it could be worse. It means we still own our building, giving us that extra ritual currency. I don't know if it still works while it's damaged, but it'll be easier to repair it than recapture the place, and rebuild it. Now we can take some immediate revenge on these elves because for whatever reason they just hung around and walked around the settlement with the rest of their turn. That means we can attack them with kroq-gar, who I'd already brought back from the front lines in the previous turn, and we just do a really cheeky lightning strike to attack the weaker army and annihilate it for no losses, and Tyrion is forced to fall back a little bit there. And now I can quickly repair that ritual currency making building just to get that going again. I noticed I got a trait for defeating Tyrion, even though we actually didn't, so that's a nice fun exploit there. I did go on to try and attack him, but he can actually retreat again, and we couldn't reach him after that, so that's annoying. He's not all that powerful as it stands, so it would be good to bring him down, but he's going to get away with it on this occasion. Now back to the abominations, we can continue on to attack as per the previous plan, and there's still no sign of an army from the abomination faction. So we'll just keep doing this until we see one and try to unify the province. That will help us get rid of that chaos corruption in the area. Now back to the elven turn. They kill one of the vampire agents, so that's nice because that guy was just doing stuff against me the whole time. Then Tyrion and the remnants of his army start moving to the north, a possible direction that might indicate they're going to go back home, so that was a welcome sign. We also learned that the abominations do have an army. It appears to attack pools of despair, so that wasn't a very long-lived territory for us. I thought I might fight it if we have ideal terrain, such as a choke point, because we can spam our spears at the front and kill quite a lot of the enemy, but the battlefield was terrible, so we just let them have the place, and that was the end of that. We'll now have to keep an eye on that army, because it can come and attack us, and most likely will. Getting absolutely tons of traits for various things there, but anyway, now I needed to decide what to do with kroq-gar, and I thought I should probably go after Tyrion. Even though he might actually be leaving the theatre, I want to tail him just in case he isn't, because he can now double back and attack our settlements if he wants to, or he could just stand there and give me the opportunity to kill him in the next turn. So I am going to go after him. That does mean our defences will be left a tiny bit open, so I need to quickly put something together to fight those abominations. You can see I've already started a little army with some spearmen here. I'm going to use it just to finish off these raiding vampires nearby, and there's really nothing to this. The only reason I'm bothering to put this in the episode is because doing this allowed me to discover something very important. As you can see just to the north, there's actually another elven army right here. This one's much more powerful than the ones we saw previously, with really high quality units, and it hasn't been killed by attrition, so it probably just arrived and hasn't been campaigning on the continent. That suggests to me that the elves certainly do want to stage a further invasion of our territory because new troops are arriving, and that is corroborated by this move from Tyrion. He goes to the east to attack the Salt Plain, a pretty good move from him. Our garrison is not especially big because we only just recently took this place. It's low level. The map wasn't very good either. So all that didn't look very good, but I wanted to fight this battle because both Tyrion and his mage were at low health. So I thought, even if this goes badly, we have an opportunity to kill their VIPs and make dealing with the rest of the army much easier. My strategy can only really be run at them. Since we have such a range disadvantage and a speed disadvantage, we just need to somehow get melees going as soon as we can. I was trying to tank some of their bolt throwers with my skinks. It was working on their regular archers, but the bolt throwers were now attacking our main units, so that's not very good at all. Literally nothing we can do about it, so we just have to take it and see what comes of it. Meanwhile, just that archer fire and some help from their phoenix have pretty much taken out our skink units. We lose 2 units right away, and our right flank just folds and disappears right as the battle starts, or even before it properly got started, so that's not very nice. Now the enemy's archers will switch targets to attack our regular Saurus. They do have their shields, which gives them some probability to block missile attacks. I think it's either 25 or 40, something like that. So that's nice. Some of those attacks won't have damaged them. In comes Tyrion though, just to rampage through our front line. He is low on health, but he's still very powerful, so he'll be fine to just hit his way through, and already we see units just routing from our centre, our most powerful units disappearing before our eyes. This is not looking good. We did get some decent javelin attacks here on the enemy's archers. The only downside to this is you don't get many javelins on these skink units, so we can't do this for very long. Really, I needed to use them as melee units, and my main focus was to disrupt this bolt thrower by just coming and attacking the crew, and that worked out. They do still have another one firing though. I'm also going to try and kill this mage here, who is hacking away with the Phoenix on our front line, doing a lot of damage, but she is on the verge of death, so just a few hits will take her down. I was also, as I said, trying to focus on Tyrion. He came out to fight with my skinks on my left, my javelin skinks. He got hit by a volley of javelins on the way in, but he just took it like a man and then started hacking his way through our stuff. And our melee attacks weren't really doing any damage to him. You can see I'm just watching the health bar there and seeing how the vast majority of our attacks do 0 damage. So not really sure what we can do there. We're just going to try and kill him. Getting some bolt thrower crews into melee there, that's nice, since if we kill the crew, it destroys the unit. This other one being disrupted by our pterodons, but mostly just ignoring them. The pterodons have such low attack stats that they can't really kill them very effectively. I realised the best way to use my skinks here is to just run at the enemy's archers. Because they're skirmishing, they'll start running away, and that means they're not firing at us, so we can effectively deal with them by just chasing them around at the back of the map, although we have pretty much lost the melee fight already. Their heroes and their Phoenix are just destroying all of our stuff on their own. We did kill that mage, so that's something, but we've lost all of the things we had in that fight, and we did not kill Tyrion. We saw there that there was this green mist that appeared to heal him and bring his health back. I think that might be one of his special abilities as a legendary lord, and now that he had 2,000 plus health, we had no chance of doing that much damage with our terrible skinks, so that was pretty much over, and the rest of the fight's pretty much over as well. We've just got a few half-dead units coming back from routing around the place, and the enemy's archers can just hit them with no fear of ever being caught into melee since our stuff's so slow-moving. Our last viable unit was our pterodons, but they got killed before they could go and charge some of the enemy's archers, although as we can see here, they did manage to get one javelin into that one guy, so that was nice. But again, another defeat to the elves. This little war is not going as we would like it, and the real action is yet to begin, so we'll see that next time.